Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are really opening the file on a persistent multi-million-dollar question in hip-hop. It's a controversy that puts the integrity, the authenticity of one of the genre's biggest figures right under the microscope. Joseph Cartagena, Fat Joe.
Yeah, and this deep dive, it goes way beyond just, the usual social media buzz or old rap beefs. We're actually digging into court documents, real legal testimony, and like 3 decades of insider claims that seem to corroborate each other. It tracks this alleged pattern, ghostwriting, financial issues,
Yeah.
that's shadowed Joe's success pretty much from the mid-90s right up to, well, today.
So our mission here is to trace those creative influences, the ones that shaped Fat Joe's career, but maybe more importantly, understand the financial and legal reckoning that seems to have come from these allegations.
And that reckoning it's pretty staggering, honestly. When you add it all up, the financial scope, you've got past settlements, documented losses, Joe himself claims, plus the current demands in, active federal lawsuits. We are talking claims, exposure easily exceeding $32 million. I mean, for a genre like hip hop that holds authenticity so high as this like fundamental pillar, this is blown up into a huge financial and legal crisis.
Okay, let's unpack this then. We've tried to organize our sources into 3 key eras to make sense of it all. First, those foundational years, right? Big Pun, the early Terror Squad writing factory, then the consistency of industry whispers that kind of follow that, and finally the really big one, the federal lawsuits that are escalating like crazy right now in New York.
Right. And you absolutely have to start with the figure who arguably catalyzed Joe's mainstream success. Christopher Rios, Big Pun. Fat Joe discovered Pun around, 1995. Now, Joe, he already had a couple of albums out before that relationship started, but Pun's arrival, that was the real launchpad, no question.
And the sources we looked at suggest Pun wasn't just like a collaborator. He was allegedly the creative engine behind that whole initial explosion.
Yeah.
And the most explosive testimony seems to come from someone who saw that partnership really close up.
That would be Liza Rios, yeah, Big Pun's widow.
Uh-huh.
Her statement from 2015 is it's incredibly direct, brutal even. She stated, and this is a quote, "Every song that Joe was on with Pun, Pun wrote the whole song and the verse." Now think about the implication there. It suggests that during their peak success together, Joe wasn't contributing his own lyrics on the tracks they did jointly.
Wow. That's fundamental, isn't it? Challenges the whole artistic narrative. And apparently it went even further than just the lyrics, the bars themselves.
Exactly. The sources suggest Pun wasn't just, fixing rhymes here and there. He was potentially defining the whole persona. Liza Rios also claimed Pun was basically responsible for Joe's branding, his artistic direction. She said he changed Joe's name. He did the whole Don Cartagena. So if you step back, that means the creative force behind the name change, the lyrical style, the brand identity that really defined Joe's mid-career, that Don Cartagena era, was allegedly Pun.
Okay, so let me get this straight. This wasn't just one artist helping out another with a few lines. It sounds like it grew into something more organized, systematic. The sources detail this whole Terror Squad ghostwriting network operating back in the late 90s.
Yeah, it seems like it was a collective thing with a kind of hierarchy. Pun was primary, sure, but the sources list several other members who were apparently contributing heavily. Triple C's Sammy Garcia, he confirmed that he and Pun ghostwrote for the Don Cartagena album in '98.
Huh.
And then you have other key names from the Terror Squad roster popping up, like Cuban Link, Armageddon, Prospect involved in contributing verses, hooks, maybe even concepts.
And what's really fascinating, or maybe troubling, depending how you look at it, is that the songs being implicated, these aren't just B-sides or album filler. These are the foundational hits, the anthems that defined a whole era of New York hip-hop.
That's exactly right. We're not talking about deep cuts nobody remembers. The allegations specifically point to title tracks like Don Cartagena, the big single Bet Ya Man Can't Triz, and even going back further, Joe's earlier hit Flojo. Cuban Link explicitly claims Big Pun wrote that one too. I mean, if these claims hold water, it fundamentally shifts who wrote Joe's most recognizable early stuff.
Right. And this leads us into the next phase, because what makes these claims so hard to just brush off is, well, it's the consistency, isn't it? This isn't just one person with an axe to grind or, the grieving spouse of a deceased artist speaking out years later. These are consistent claims spanning, over 25 years, coming from multiple, seemingly independent sources, former collaborators, the estate, industry vets.
That's the key point. The narrative that he relied on ghostwriters didn't just vanish when Pun tragically passed away. It apparently continued. Which brings us to a more recent and incredibly damaging claim from, an industry legend.
You're talking about brand Nubian's Lord Jamar. His statements, they came out, what, 2024, 2025? And they really blew the scope wide open, didn't they? Pushing it way beyond just the terror squad era.
Yeah, Lord Jamar stated at point blank, "You don't even write your own raps." He basically suggested that Joe's dependency on uncredited writers covers his entire career. Now, when you try to quantify that, the sheer volume of songs allegedly ghostwritten is kind of mind-boggling. Based on everything we've seen, a conservative guess might be, I don't know, 150 to 200 songs, maybe more. But if Jamar's really broad claims are anywhere near accurate, you could be looking at upwards of 300 songs. Basically, his entire catalog potentially implicated.
Wow. That changes the whole story from, maybe he gave them help early on to potentially this was the business model for decades.
And this pattern, this alleged financial and artistic situation, it actually found its first major legal validation almost a decade ago. That was the Big Pun estate lawsuit. And this is where we can actually anchor the initial financial cost of this whole arrangement.
Right. Tell us about that, the financial precedent set by that. It was a multi-million-dollar settlement, wasn't it?
It was. Liza Rios filed that lawsuit. It ran between 2014 and 2016. She was seeking about $2.3 million in unpaid royalties she believed were owed to Pun's estate. The really critical detail here is that the settlement in 2016, it wasn't just some handshake deal to make it go away. No, it was based on expert accounting findings, forensic accounting, basically. And they found Pun was underpaid by at least $2,076,093. So that established legal, documented proof. There was financial impropriety tied to their collaboration, and Pun's family was owed serious money. That's our first concrete $2 million plus data point.
Okay, and here's where it gets really interesting, like you said. That $2 million settlement, you would think that would be a wake-up call, right? But the problem clearly didn't stop. The sources showed the situation hasn't just continued. It's spiraled into this massive, active federal crisis just this year, 2025.
Yeah, the current spotlight is intensely focused on Terrance T.A. Dixon. He used to be Fat Joe's hype man. Dixon came forward back in March 2025, basically demanding compensation. His claim, he was an uncredited vocalist and ghostwriter on Joe's material.
And Joe's response wasn't exactly quiet, was it? It sounds like the legal reaction was immediate and pretty aggressive.
Yeah.
Escalated things fast.
Oh, it spiraled within weeks. So April 2025, Fat Joe hits back, countersues Dixon for extortion. Then fast forward to June, Dixon officially files this huge $20 million federal complaint. And it's filed in the Southern District of New York, the SBNY. For anyone listening, that's the big leagues. It's the federal court where major high-profile entertainment, finance, business disputes often land.
Okay, so why $20 million?
Yeah.
That's a massive jump from the $2 million Pun settlement. What's Dixon claiming the stakes are?
Well, the demand likely reflects the alleged scope of the damages, compensation for intellectual property services over time. It's a big number, no doubt. And the whole thing became instantly volatile. Like, the day after the initial complaint was filed, the lawsuit documents included these really explosive allegations, things way beyond just ghostwriting, claims about sex acts with minors. Suddenly, a copyright and compensation dispute turns into this massive media firestorm with extremely serious accusations.
And the drama didn't even stop there, right? There was some bizarre side story involving Dixon's lawyer.
Yeah, it got wild. Just days after filing that huge complaint, Dixon's attorney, Tyrone Blackburn, he was arrested, allegedly hit a process server with his car. Now, obviously, that's kind of peripheral to the core ghostwriting claim itself, but it just shows you the intense, almost chaotic legal atmosphere surrounding this whole case right now. Joe responded pretty heatedly himself on June 26th, put out a letter calling the allegations disgusting lies.
So where does this incredibly complex federal case stand right now? We're in September 2025.
It's very much active in the SDNY. Right now, they're deep in what's called the motion practice stage. Basically, for you listening, that means they're in the legal trenches, fighting it out, filing motions back and forth, arguing over whether the judge should even let certain claims proceed to the next stage, like discovery or trial. Both sides are trying to get parts of the other's case thrown out.
And the financial stakes here are enormous, and it cuts both ways.
Absolutely. You've got Dixon demanding the $20 million, but Fat Joe is also claiming he's suffered significant financial damage because of these allegations. He stated publicly that he's already lost over $10 million in deals, opportunities, endorsements, directly because this stuff went public. So if you add that up, the immediate documented claimed financial loss and demand sits at $30 million, even before a judge or jury weighs in on the merits.
So, okay, let's zoom out a bit. Beyond the courtroom drama, what does all this mean? The sheer volume, the consistency of these allegations over decades. It seems to fundamentally challenge that core hip-hop value of keeping it real, doesn't it? If the most commercially successful music for maybe 3 decades was allegedly cranked out by this systematic writing factory, what does that do to the legacy?
It means the success story of the Terror Squad Collective and Fat Joe's solo career, it's now permanently tangled up with these disputes. It casts a shadow. And crucially, it's not just the early material from the pun era. The allegations stretch forward, implicating his major chart-dominating hits later on. We're talking What's Love from 2002 that hit #4 on Billboard. We're talking Lean Back, the 2004 monster #1 hit on the Hot 100, and even the big 2016 comeback track, all the way up, all listed in these various claims as allegedly ghostwritten.
It really changes the listener's relationship with the entire catalog, doesn't it?
Right.
Forces you to reevaluate who the creative voice actually belonged to. Let's just bring it back to the money one last time. Review that incredible financial arc.
Yeah, the financial escalation is maybe the clearest sign of the growing risk involved in this kind of alleged artistic deception in today's world. We started with the big pun estate settlement, just over $2 million. Legally established underpayment. Check. Then we leap to the current situation. Fat Joe's claimed losses from the Dixon fallout are $10 million plus. Dixon's demand is $20 million plus.
So that brings the total documented financial impact and risk, just from these specific cases we've tracked, to over $32 million. And it's still climbing. The progression really is the story here.
It truly is. And, this whole controversy, it severely impacts how we remember Terror Squad, too. It kind of transforms that narrative from one of collective success and gritty New York dominance into something now heavily dominated by writing disputes. It creates these permanent fractures in how contributions are perceived and remembered.
So we've tracked this whole thing. From Big Pun's creative arrival in the mid-90s, through literally 2 decades of whispers and consistent claims, right up to this ongoing, spiraling $20 million federal lawsuit playing out in the SDNY today. What seems to make this case just unprecedented is that sheer volume of corroborating testimony over so many years from insiders. That's what seems to have given these financial claims their undeniable legal teeth.
And that progression, think about it. From a relatively quiet royalty dispute that settled for $2 million to now, this massive $20 million federal case tangled up with intense side dramas, counterclaims of extortion, huge claimed financial losses. It suggests something pretty profound, I think, in this modern era. With information flowing so freely, transparency being demanded, the true cost of alleged artistic deception isn't just paid in reputation anymore. It's increasingly paid in the courtroom, with staggering financial liabilities attached.
Which leaves us with a powerful final question for you, the listener, to think about. When the writing factory is potentially responsible for the very material that achieves the biggest commercial success, the #1 hits, how do we as listeners, as consumers, redefine authenticity in modern music? We'll leave you to mull over that complex financial and cultural paradox.